As you know, I was in Milwaukee at the Republican debate this Wednesday, and it was strange as I was leaving and I was talking to people and I was getting a feel. And if you asked me, who had the best night, who really exceeded expectations, my initial, as I'm leaving the debate hall, my feeling was Nikki Haley and, believe it or not, Mike Pence. They actually both exceeded expectations there. I thought that Governor DeSantis did well when he had his moments, but he had so few moments that he did fine, but I wouldn't say that he was the standout of the night. Imagine my surprise when an hour later I check on X.com, formerly known as Twitter, and apparently Vivek Ramaswamy just mopped the stage with everybody. Did he, though? Well, now we're getting some poll results that suggest that both that initial reaction I had in the room and the social media reaction was actually quite different than the viewers at home. Let's bring in David Marcus again, commentator and journalist. David, it turns out, according to the polls, that the American people, the viewers, Republican voters, by the way, say that the winner was, in fact, Ron DeSantis. Nobody was saying that on social media right after the election. Oh, all right, you were, David.
No, go back to my feed. I watched it at home with my cat, and no, I mean, the moment it ended, it was a very simple tweet. I said DeSantis won. And it was clear to me, the reason it was clear to me that he won was that, he didn't make great TV, which is what pundits are hoping for. He wasn't edgy and crazy, which is what, Vivek did that set social media on fire. But when you talk to real voters about what they're looking for when they're watching a debate, there's one fundamental hurdle. The biggest hurdle is, can I picture this guy as president, right? It's like casting a movie. You can be a great actor, but if I don't see you in the part, you're not getting the part. So voters are saying, can I see this guy giving a State of the Union address? Can I see this guy at a natural disaster? Can I see this guy staring down a foreign leader? And for my money, he was clearly the only person on that stage who fit the bill, at least Wednesday night.
Interesting. That's a great observation. And in retrospect, as I was leaving the hall, one thing I said to a person that I was with said, I think DeSantis helped himself tonight because up until debate night, the feeling amongst most Republican observers was Trump's the only guy who can beat Biden. I don't think these other people have it. And I saw, oh yeah, I can see DeSantis going after Biden and I can see him winning. And I think that's a big part of the hurdle too. Not just can you picture him as president, but can he beat Joe?
I agree 100%. And I think that, look, it's only a smattering of polling so far. We're really not going to know until the end of next week if this had any significant impact. But from the polls that you're citing and that I've been looking at, about a quarter of Republican viewers said DeSantis won. About a quarter said that Vivek Ramaswamy won. The key difference is that many, if not most, of the people saying that Vivek won are voting for Trump no matter what. So I do think you have to pay attention to that in those numbers. Listen, DeSantis is still a long shot, and he needs to gain about 10 to 15 points in the polls over the next month and a half, 2 months. We'll see if he's able to do it. But yeah, I think he helped himself out on Wednesday. Not enormously, but a little bit.
So the larger question, though, here, I think, or at least something that's worth observing, is how different the social media world is versus the real world. Because, okay, you said DeSantis won after the debate, but it was definitely the minority of people commenting. And as much as we like to say that social media isn't the real world, Twitter isn't the real world, it is sort of hyper-focused in terms of journalists and commentators and people who can help move the needle in some cases with politics. So this is a problem, isn't it, that things are so magnified and wrong on X versus the reality.
Yes, because when people don't see what they believe to be true on X reflected out in the real world, they think that there's some kind of conspiratorial lie going on, right? So, I mean, right now you have notably, Tucker Carlson and Elon Musk are not claiming this, right? But you have a lot of people who are very supportive of X who are claiming that the Tucker-Trump counter-programming was the most watched interview in the history of the world.
Yes.
It's abject nonsense. It's a confusion of what it means to scroll past a tweet for 2 seconds versus actually watching something. It's just a lie.
Yeah.
And my worry about that lie is that people aren't going to see that reflected in their daily lives. They're not going to show up at work and everybody's talking about the most watched interview in the history. So, yeah, I mean, look,
Right.
I think everybody needs to take a breath here.
No, this is a great point, and I've been trying to say it as well. And by the way, I think we both love Tucker Carlson.
Absolutely.
Man's a hero, fantastic. I want him to be hugely successful. But it's worth pointing out that those 250 or 280 million views they're up to. I want to repeat what you just said. If you watched that for 2 seconds, that counts it as a view. I mean, literally, if you clicked it accidentally, it is literally apples and oranges with Nielsen ratings on television.
You don't even have to click it.
Right.
All you have to do
Autoplay.
is be scrolling and stop scrolling for 2 seconds while it's on 50% of the screen.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, look, we all know why anyone in any media is going to try to make their numbers look as big as possible. But this is, I mean, listen, like that interview did not get twice the viewership of the Super Bowl. And,
Right.
you know, I worry that there's people who believe that it did.
Well, and let's the proof is in the pudding here, and you've been making this point. You've been asking people, what's the big headline from this interview? What's the big takeaway? What's the big, what did Trump say that was so blockbuster in this 45-minute interview? Has anyone answered you?
No. No, I mean, there was, he thinks that Epstein committed suicide, which, maybe he did, probably he did, but yeah.
That's also not news. He said that at the time, didn't he?
No. Yeah, I mean, listen, journalism is so distrusted now that I would really like to be able to sit here and say, listen, I write for traditional legacy media. I appear on traditional legacy media. That's who you should trust. I'm not in a position to do that. And that's not in regard to any of the people that I write for. I'm just talking about the industry as a whole.
Yeah.
Its reputation has been so utterly damaged that I understand why people are believing things that aren't true that they see on X. But the answer isn't to find a platform where the right can, lie with as much impunity as the left does. The answer is to find a way for all of us to stop lying.
That said, let's talk about the actual ratings, the Nielsen ratings that Fox had. And I assure you, the way Nielsen calculates these things, you have to watch more than 2 seconds for it to register. The estimates show that it was 13 million viewers, and the projections going in was way lower than that. The conventional wisdom was this is going to be a ratings bust because Trump isn't on the stage. And it was 13 million. That's a good number. Fox is happy right now. What does this tell you?
It's not just Fox who's happy. I mean, everybody on that stage is happy. And I think it maybe will send a message to Donald Trump and his campaign, especially if they don't see some mega bounce off of the mugshot or whatever. We're about a month away from the next debate. So it's going to be very interesting to see, given these numbers, right? I mean, Trump world, whether they believed it or not, they were claiming, oh, nobody's going to watch this. Why would we even go? Is Donald Trump really going to turn down 13 million eyeballs on live TV? We'll see.
Well, he said that he's not going to do any of the debates. Do you think that's going to? I spoke to Hogan Gidley, former spokesman. He doesn't work for the Trump campaign anymore, but he's definitely supporting the former president earlier this week. And he said, when it gets down to maybe 2 or 3, then he'll start debating.
Maybe. I honestly don't know. Because there's another part of this, which is like, how willing is Trump, who's under 91 criminal indictments, to go up on a stage where there's absolutely no control over what somebody might ask him? I mean, I'm sure his lawyers wouldn't be thrilled with him doing that. So I mean, there's a lot of ins and outs here. But yeah, I mean, if the ratings are that high, that's definitely going to be a sweetener for him to try to jump in the pool next time.
David Marcus, I want to end this sadly, and this could actually be quite risky because I think you're a highly credible individual and people respect you. I know I do. So this could shoot the whole thing to hell. You don't really think the Eagles are winning the Super Bowl this year, do you?
Listen, this is a classic Washington football, whatever you guys call your team. This is a classic tactic trying to get a Philly guy to jinx himself. I wasn't born yesterday. I'll say this. We'll beat your guys twice. How about that?
You couldn't even do that last year.
Well,
and we didn't have a quarterback.
Well, we'll beat you guys twice. That's my prediction.
David Marcus, delusional football fan from from Philadelphia. Thanks for joining us. There's more to come on O'Connor Tonight.